Hey kids, Flexing Teacher Weber here. I hope you're having a good day. We have started now multiplying integers. And the goal of today's lesson was to show, to sort of discover the rules for multiplying integers. So what I wanted to do first with the kids was start with a very basic one, a positive times a positive. And what I actually wanted to do first was talk about the different ways we can write a multiplication question, because as you get into higher levels of math, the multiplication symbol that we know and love starts to be used in algebra to represent an unknown number. So to eliminate confusion, we start to use other ways to represent multiplication. One of the things we'll do is use parentheses. So another way this question 3 times 2 could be written is you could write it in parentheses like that. And even just writing one number in parentheses works. You could write 3 in parentheses times 2 like that. Or you could write 3 in parentheses and the 2 beside it. That also means multiplication. And then, not as used as much anymore, but often you'll see a 3 or a dot to use multiplication. Now, we know the answer to this question, 3 times 2 is 6, but one of the things we're doing in this section is discovering some of the rules for multiplication. So I wanted to start off just modeling this one out. Now, we are still using our integer model, shaded our positive and unshaded our negative. And so to model this one out, if I wanted to show 3 times 2, I have to think about what it means. It means add 3 groups of positive 2. So I put 3 groups of positive 2, doink, oops. There's positive 2, 1, 2, another positive 2, 1, 2, and a third group of positive 2, 1, 2. And we can very clearly see that 3 groups of positive 2 equals 6 positives, or positive 6. Okay, and we knew that already. We didn't need the model to show that. But what that does confirm for us is that a positive times a positive is equal to a positive. And I am pretty positive about that. Okay, that's all we're going to talk about for that one. Boom. Next thing, looking at a positive times a negative. Now, remember how you can write this. You could write it like this. Or you might write it like this. Or you might write it like this. Okay, so many different ways to write it. Now, it means add 2 groups of 4 negatives. Shaded are positive, unshaded negative. So how will I do that? Well, add 2 groups of 4 negatives. So let's make 2 groups of 4 negatives. Unshaded, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one group. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second group. And we can very clearly see there that 2 groups of 4 negatives is equal to negative 8. So that's negative 8. And then that would prove to us that a positive times a negative is equal to a negative. Okay, so rolling along here, let's take a look what would be next. We'll do a couple more of these just to confirm we have this. So shadeds are positive, unshaded negative. 3 times negative 4. Well, that means add 3 groups of 4 negatives. Okay, so add 3 groups of 4 negatives. So do exactly what it means. There's 4 negatives. There's a second group of 4 negatives. There's a third group of 4 negatives. So 3 groups of negative 4 is equal to negative 12. A positive times a negative is a negative. And number 4, 2 groups of negative 6. Add 2 groups of negative 6. Okay, well, let's do it. Let's make 2 groups of negative 6. There's one group of negative 6. There's a second group of negative 6. Okay, and you can very clearly see if you count up all those white circles, there are 12 of them. So that means 2 times negative 6 is equal to negative 12. A positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, so we've done 2 of them. Let's do the last 2. A negative times a positive. Okay, well, don't forget, this could be written as negative 2 times 3 could be written like this. Okay, could be written like this. Could be written like this. Or it could be written like this. And it means, this time means take away 2 groups of 3 positives. So, it's a little bit different this time. We have this take away because there's a negative sign here. So take away 2 groups of 3 positives. So my first thought is to do this. There's one group of 3 positives, and there's another group. But it says take them away, and we've just added them. So that's wrong. So the question is, how can we make those 2 groups of 3 positives, which equal positive 6, appear, but not actually have positive 6 on the screen? Well, the answer is to do 0 pairs. With every positive, pair it with a negative. And then what I have here is I have 0. So I haven't actually added 2 groups of 3 positives. And now I can do exactly what the question says. I can take away 2 groups of 3 positives. Take them away. And what am I left with? I have 6 white ones left for negative 6. So a negative times a positive is equal to a negative. Let's explore that further. Negative 3 times positive 4. Okay, so it starts with a minus sign. So this means take away 3 groups of 4 positives. Okay, so let's do that. Now the first thought is to make 4 positives, but if I do that, that's wrong because I'm adding 4 positives. So we balance it out by making 0 pairs, and I have 0. I want to do 3 groups of this. I've still added 0. I haven't added positive 4. I've just added 0. So again, I have 0 there. I haven't been adding positive 4. I've been adding 0. And now I can do exactly what the question says. I can take away 3 groups of 4 positives. So take them away. And you can very clearly see that I'm left with 12 white. So the answer is negative 12. And the same thing over here. Negative 2 times positive 5. I'm just going to tell you what the answer is right now. It's going to be negative 10. Because a negative times a positive is a negative. But let's prove it. First of all, what does it mean? It means take away 2 groups of positive 5. Okay? So, my first thought is to do this. Make a group of positive 5. But that's adding positive 5. I want to take it away. So the way I make positive 5 appear without actually having positive 5 there is 0 pairs. And I've got to do that twice. And now I still have 0 on my page, but now I can take away 2 groups of positive 5. So take them away. And you can see I have 10 white left, and 10 white equals negative 10. So a negative times a positive is a negative. Okay, we've done all of them except a negative times a negative. Negative 2 times negative 4. There's a minus sign at the beginning, so this means take away 2 groups of 4 negatives. Okay, so my first thought is this. Here's a group of 4 negatives, but I haven't taken them away, I've added them. So how do I fix that? How do I make -4 appear without actually having 4 negatives? Well, make 0 pairs, and now I have 0. Pair them up again, and now I still have 0. All over here, this is all equal to 0. But now I can do what it says. I can take away 2 groups of 4 negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to cross out 2 groups of 4 negatives. And look at what I'm left with now. What I am left with is all the positives. So -2 times -4 is equal to +8. Because when I'm doing a negative times a negative, I'm taking away all the negatives. And so a negative times a negative is a positive. Let's explore that further. -2 times -6. Well, I'm going to tell you, the answer is +12. And it means take away 2 groups of -6. Okay, well, let's start with -6, but I'm not taking them away, I'm adding them. So I fix it by making 0 pairs. And I have to do 2 groups of that. And again, I don't want to be adding them, so I pair them with positives so that I have 0 there right now. So on my screen, I still have 0. I haven't added anything. And now I can take away all the negatives. And look at what I'm left with. I'm left with 12 black, or +12. A negative times a negative is a positive. Last one. -4 times -3. Okay. Starts with a negative, so take away 4 groups of -3. Okay, so I want to start with -3. But that's adding -3. So I balance it off with 0 pairs. Okay. Oh, that's wrong. Sorry, I want -3. So take one of those off. So I want 4 groups. I want to be able to take away 4 groups of -3. So there's 0. And I'm going to do this 4 times. Because I want 4 groups. But I don't want to be adding -3s. I just want to have 0. So right there, I still have 0. I haven't added anything. It's just 0. But now I can do what the question says. I can take away 4 groups of 3 negatives. So take away all your negatives. And all you're left with is the positives. In fact, you're left with +12. So -3 times -4 is equal to +12. A negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a negative is a negative. And a negative times a positive is a negative. In our next video, we're going to explore that a bit further and do a little bit of problem solving. But I hope this helps you see why the rules for integers are the way they are. That's all for now. Stay tuned for Multiplying Integers Part 2. Flexing Teacher Weber, ouch.